Hi, everyone. We are so excited to have you. First, a couple of administrative items before we get started. I am adding our amazing guest today, Dion's LinkedIn, to the chat. And please follow him on LinkedIn. I did a little stalking this morning, and Dion's kind of dope online. So please follow him on LinkedIn. And then also let us know in the comments where you are coming from. My name is Lexi B, and I'm so honored to be your host today and guide us through some questions to learn more about Dion's past, his present, and what he does that can transform the world. But to get into it, let's first start with an intro. Who is this human? So, as the founder and CEO of Rostar Technologies, Dion brings over a decade of experience as a tech entrepreneur building innovative SaaS solutions for the creative economy. Leading a lean startup, Dion combines unique problem-solving skills, creativity, and education to develop cutting-edge software tailored for the independent media and entertainment market. Rostar Technologies develops and manages software with an estimated market value of over 25 million American dollars. That's a lot of money. Beyond entrepreneurship, Dion is also an author and public speaker with both fictional and technical publications to his credit, along with articles and papers exploring the intersection of blockchain and comic creation. He has been featured as a speaker at multiple industry events and conferences. Dion, sir, how are you today?
I'm well, Lexi. Thank you for having me here. And I also want to thank Graphy for sponsoring this very unique and new presentation. So appreciate
We're
it.
excited. We're excited to have you. So I just want to get right into it. Folks, before we start, also wanted to remind everyone, please feel free to add questions in the Zoom question and answer bot. Later in this conversation, we will get to them. So if you have any thoughts or questions, add them to the Q&A bot. And of course, keep the chat going. We have to root for Dion. I'm sure this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful and educational conversation. So my first question for you is,
All right.
again, Against the Grain is a bold title, and this is the title of your book. So, what inspired you to write this book in the first place? How do we get here?
Okay. All right. So let's see. We've got a couple of reasons that we're here.
Mm,
The first, and I think the most important, and it's something that's been on my mind in the book writing process, but in kind of the life cycle process. So pretty soon I'll hit 50. And about a year or so ago, I was thinking about what does the next decade look like? What does 50 and beyond look like?
mm,
And from that point, I began to look backwards, right? So
mm,
what I like to refer to as map backwards. That's my process. When I think about the past and I use it to think forward, I call it mapping backwards. So what I did, I said, let's look at the adult life, which for me started at about 17, and let's look towards today. And what I recognize is I do a lot of going. I was doing a lot of going. And when I say going, just a lot of movement, got to get this job, got to make this amount of money, gotta. And although I think that my goals had been very defined, and they were, um, it felt more reactive. It felt more
mm,
reactive as I thought backwards on these things. It felt more reactive. And I said, okay, let's be more specific about the next decade, 50 to 60, you know, and let's do something definitive for you. Personal pursuits. I wanted something that
of
was more
course.
personal, that really tied to who I am deep down inside. Now, of course, Raster Technology it's something really creative. I said, I'm not sure what I want to do, but I want something that's definitive of the next decade. Crossing my fingers, hoping that I make it to 50 and then to 60. and then I wanted to think about it in decades. So 50 to 60, 60 to 70, and so on.
Mm.
Next, the other part to that, having a pretty big following on LinkedIn and big connections on LinkedIn. It's a nice size. There are people with much bigger followings than me, but um,
No, 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 no. I'm gonna have to interrupt. For the
okay.
folks who don't know, Dion over here has almost 33,000 followers on LinkedIn. So that's 33,000 humans somewhere in this world and in this planet that
Yeah.
really admire what you say and what you do. And we are not going to gloss over that. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Lexi. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. Yeah, I won't downplay it. Thank you, Melissa. And by the way, I want to state that Melissa's actually here to moderate in our chat for us too. So she's here to help us out.
I love it. Hi, Melissa. I love
Um,
this. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
she's really
Mhm,
great.
mhm.
And so ultimately, you get a lot of messages from people with those number of contacts. You get a lot of messages. I get a lot of people selling me things. And there was a guy who approached me by the name of Brian Buys, or Brian Buys, not Bees, but Brian Buys.
Mhm.
And he, somebody's making a comment there. Oh, okay, can this be a shirt? But anyway, he approached me and he said, "Hey, had you ever written a book, or had you ever thought about writing a book?" And of course, I had. A really good friend of mine and I, many years ago, we talked about the three things that guys, as we understood, that guys should do, and that's go bald once in their life. That
Okay.
naturally happened for me. I kind of became Lex Luthor naturally. Um, Plant a tree. Done a lot of
Okay.
gardening. That's not a problem. That's easy.
Okay.
um, and also write a book.
Mm.
And while we talked about it many years ago, at that time it was, good conversation, but I was involved in so many things, again, just on the go, that I never really planted myself down to really do that. I didn't double down
Mhm.
on that.
Mhm.
And I said to Brian, I said, Brian, I'm not there yet.
Mhm.
If this is the hero's journey, I haven't gotten around the little circle that Joseph Campbell did. I haven't gotten to Vader yet. So, you know, um, I didn't feel that I was at the point where writing a book would be relevant. I wanted to be more successful. I wanted to be further. I wanted to be where I saw myself in my head.
Right. Right.
And what he said to me was a real course correction. He said, you can talk about your experiences. And I said, well, I've had a lot of those for sure. So I've been a lot of places in the world. I've done things I,
Mhm.
was supposed to do, and a lot of stuff I wasn't. So I said, okay, we'll balance the discussion about those two things. But
Okay.
I basically said, I think this is it. I think
Mm.
this is what will power me for the next 10 years. And my thinking as I went deeper into what I would talk about, one of the things that I've done a lot, I've taken a lot of risk, a lot of risk. At 17, I was, kind of slated to go to college. I didn't go. I wanted to
Mm.
control my own life.
Mhm.
Not that people who go to college don't control their own life, but I notice now the talk is, wow, the degree is not getting us where we wanted to go. Well, I was thinking that way many years ago. I won't say how many,
Mm.
but many years ago. So it was really about, let me talk about risk. One of the things that I've done a lot, when you break down all the different things, I said, you've done so many different things, but what's similar about these? And it's the fact that in a lot of areas, it was me taking risk. So,
Mhm.
um, a longer story long,
Mhm.
basically, I said, yes, let's write this book. And I also came to a frame of thinking as
Mm.
a part of the process of writing, as we get to half century mark, or any point in our experience where we've learned a considerable amount, it's time to articulate that into a message, into a
Mhm.
communication that we can teach. We make it teachable. Whether you're an illustrator, whether you're a writer, whether you're a dancer, no matter what it is that you do, if you have a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge, articulating that into a work, whether that's an instruction manual, some form of education, because although the world has changed tremendously, and there are a lot of technologies that are here today than when I started my first business. The world is pretty much the same. People want to be upward mobile.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of the ways to be upward mobile, many of us have captured that information, that just one idea, one model could make the difference in someone's life. So I said, let me
Mhm.
try to articulate the 30 plus years of my life
Mhm.
and put together some models. Um, as we like to say today, I wanted to make it make sense. And
Mhm.
so that was, that's really what became the marriage there. It was me already having a question in my head about what was next for the next
Mhm.
decade, and thinking about life now in decades as opposed to just one goal and the next.
Mhm.
Um, and having Brian Buys to reach out to me. And by the way, my publisher is Manuscripts. That's the name of the company. They're at manuscripts.com. Brian's been an angel.
Mhm.
In fact, I didn't even think he was human. The
Mhm.
way that he's reached out to me and the way that he's, made statements where it had me thinking that he kind of knew more about me than I suspected. So it's
I
been a
love that.
journey.
I love
Yeah,
that.
thank
In the book, you touch on the power of networks.
you. Yeah.
Tell me high level more about that. How has networking shaped your own career and success? I'm not going to lie, selfishly, this is a very important topic to me because I believe that networking has transformed my career. But tell me more about that. I want to hear it from you.
Well, I want to, if I may, just say to you, you're absolutely correct. It is transformative.
Mm,
So one of the things that in 2008, when I was in Iraq, I was there working as a defense contractor.
yeah.
Um, a colleague of mine introduced me to a book called Linked, and I advise everyone to get the audio book or the hard copy,
Mhm.
or digital. You can go digital. I understand that's the thing too. So the book was written by a gentleman by the name of Albert Laszlo Barabasi. Hopefully, I'm not butchering his name. Mr. Barabasi has been a tremendous thought leader in the space of data science
Mhm.
and helping us to understand that networks are inherent. So, very much like math, it's something we discovered, it's not something we created. And
Mhm.
one of the things that one of the misconceptions, if I recall Mr. Barabasi's words, um, we had this idea that networks only existed and organizations only existed in very specific areas. And it was his research, very in depth research, that showed that, again, networks are inherent, they're organic to our very galaxy, to our cell structure, to everything. And we're discovering much more about them. And I think no one's made a better, I mean, unless he points it out, no one has made a better um, treaty on the work and on the subject than Mr. Berbasi. So I spent time in that book, and a few years later, I basically said, "Hey, I want to be the master of network. I want to be able
Mm,
to look at the network and ultimately look and see the social and financial values. I want to be able to determine them in seconds, the same way that we make determinations about, well, I want a peanut butter jelly sandwich or I want a burger. I want to
mhm.
do it that quickly. And so I set out at that point to literally sit down and map out on paper who's in my network, who are the strongest players in my network, what resources they had, what our interactions were, what values I could create. It took my thinking in a totally different direction. And networks are very important. Your project, your widget doesn't succeed because it's great. It
Right.
succeeds because of the networks that it's a part of and that you're a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have such crummy consumer goods out there and producer goods, that make all this money, and then you have the greatest stuff that never sees the light of day? It's because of the networks, and the values that are exchanged in those networks between those individuals and groups. So
Mm-hmm.
that's um, I advise everyone to look very carefully at the network and become a master in that space as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something you just want to say, well, I'm doing a business deal with this person and I'm selling this widget over here. That's very surface level when it comes to the network. You want to double down on literally tailoring the network, the information flow. Where's your information coming in from? How accurate is it to a particular situation, to solving a problem, being actionable, as I learned in the intelligence community? You
Mm-hmm.
want actionable intel, as we used to say. You want actionable information. And you have to understand their facts, not truths, right? And
Mm-hmm.
facts, they're only as good for the time and the situation that they're good for. And after that, it's time to move on.
Well,
So these are things that I talk about in the book. These are things that have guided me in my professional world, and have become a staple in my thinking.
mm. For readers who haven't picked up the book yet, even though they are going to,
Okay,
what can they expect from the book's beginning, middle, and end? If you had to concise it down to three, these are the things, these are the gems that you're going to get. What are
sure.
they?
So
Yeah.
really quickly, in the beginning, I'm going to talk about my life a little bit, and I'm going to talk about what this stuff means to me, what risk taking means to me, what being an entrepreneur means to me. That word's thrown around too much. In the middle, I'm pleased to say, and there are some that are actually here in the audience, I do interviews with people that I think are consummate risk takers, are great in the area of entrepreneurship and pushing it to the next level. And I highlight these people, and you'll hear their stories, the parts they want to tell you. I'm very pleased that some of those people have, been around Salvador Dali, and some of those people have escaped countries that are still wrapped up in old communism and dictatorships. Some of
Mhm.
those people have gone from, the bare bottom to really the top with very little.
Mhm.
And I'm pleased to talk about each and every one of them because they're very unique. They are all precious. And I think that they are the unspoken and unsung heroes of risk taking and leaders, business leadership, what it means to be a real business leader in small business. Forbes covers what it covers, but it misses a lot. And the
Mhm.
last part is really two parts. It's finishing off the key models that I want people to understand that I put together, like T cells, which is a form of thinking. It's my acronym for critical thinking, events-driven thinking, lateral thinking. What's my other L? Lateral. I didn't get enough coffee today, and the other you'll get in the book. But
Mhm.
anyway, it's an acronym. And also, there's a very last part. It's called, and I have it here, and I'll be reading an excerpt from it if we've got time. Let me see if I have it on the screen. I don't. Give me just a second here.
Mhm.
Uh, where is it at? Yes. So it is referred to, uh, there we go, as Liber Septum Paracolorum. And that's basically rough translation for the book of seven cautions or seven risks, where I really double down on seven areas. And I give both a philosophical viewpoint and then I give a practical viewpoint. I talk about my involvement in those areas, my experiences, as well as another professional and their experiences, my interpretation of what happened. So I double down in those areas, and I'll read the list of uh, kind of each section, if you will, because they're just sections and not really chapters, but each section and a small excerpt from it when we're ready.
Do you want to read it now?
Yeah, if everybody wants me to, I'm fine with that.
We do.
Okay, super. So let me get something from my voice real quick.
And as you
Okay,
as you do that, folks, just friendly reminder, please add your Q&A into the Q&A bot. But please go ahead.
absolutely. So,
Mhm,
so really quickly, the seven parts. The first is entrepreneurial and startup risk.
mhm,
Okay, and the I'm just going to read the. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me read it from here. I'm gonna read the list. Uh, so you have entrepreneurial and startup risk. You have technology and innovation risk. You have media and intellectual property risk. You have security and operations risk, investment and market risk, legal, regulatory, and compliance risk.
mhm,
And then last, reputation and communication risk. And I speak on those. Um, they're very important. When we're looking at business at any level of business. So really quickly here to kind of cover. I'll just read a piece of the entrepreneurial and startup risk. So
okay.
here we go. Philosophical viewpoint. One of my biggest risk in life was becoming an entrepreneur. I had no idea that I was making myself a social, academic, and professional target, rather a pariah, believe it or not.
Mm,
It goes against the traditional path. I want to, put that
mhm,
in. Nowadays, you hear the term self sacrifice as a key behavior and a reason for obtaining complex achievements in life. Is self sacrifice necessary? Yes. Does it lead to achievement? It can. Doesn't necessarily, but it can. More
mhm,
times than not, it does. However, understand the pound of flesh that you have to give is unbelievable and not the same for everyone. Everyone won't have the same thing to sacrifice. Some of
mhm,
you will have to stop dating or end your romantic relationships. People don't think about this. It happens. Or they'll end you. Some of you will have to change your eating and sleeping habits. That happens too. Okay. We don't talk about this. Some
yeah.
of you won't see a social gathering or a live event for so long you'll forget how to act or what to do when it's time to do it again. Okay. Sacrifice should not be seen as what you give up, but what you'll risk. So, in other words, oh, I'll have to go without chips. Well, you risk not, gaining that muscle mass that you want. So, thinking about it in a different way versus what you give up, more so what you lose that you could gain when you do give it up. You'll risk, time going by in an unforgiving way. You will risk
Mm,
time going by. Friends and family will have moved on from you. Some will have gotten married, died, and left your immediate area. This won't just be friends, but the venues you enjoy. They'll come and go too. And so I mentioned that I can plainly recall my local haunts going out of business and relocating in what seemed to be a quick circumstance. It wasn't quick, it was over time, but I was so in the work that I missed, you know.
mm,
And so that's a piece of it. There is another part that I do want to read from, and it is, let's see here. So give me a second here. Oh, that's not the right one. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see. Okay, I got so many pages open here. Uh, Give me one quick second. Okay. Okay, I thought I had it. Okay. 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 So one of the things I'll just talk about this part. There's a part in here, it's the practical viewpoint, and it talks about navigating the uncertainty of new ventures as a part of the entrepreneurial risk taker section. And you're going to have a lot of research to navigate. You got to do a
Mhm.
lot of homework, a lot of homework. You got to not just know how to put together your product and figure out what the vertical is. You've got to understand things today that in business we had entire teams dealing with before. There are things that we need to know as the creators of our widget when we enter into a space. Um, and one of those things that we definitely need to know more about is how the money works. We need to know
Mhm.
how the network works, as I explained earlier, and need to know how the money works. So those are a couple areas there. I have another excerpt, and I guess I can keep going with this one, but some of this you'll read in the book. It's still kind of rough,
Then folks
but
need to buy the book so we can read the book.
they will be actually getting the book as a part of a VIP membership. So
Tell us
that
more about that.
membership,
Tell us more about your community in this membership situation.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
for everybody out there, and Melissa will be good enough to put the link up, dionwilson.graphy.com. In that, you will purchase a VIP membership. The VIP
Mm,
membership is going to allow you access to the community, lifetime access to the community, where you'll be doing your own networking. You'll be meeting up with like-minded people and, hopefully doing your own deals, getting things together the way you want. You will be able to, there's lots of other stuff there. You will get a copy of the book. It'll be signed. You will also get an audio from me. It won't be too long, but it'll be a talk that's unique about risk taking. So it won't be directly from the book. It'll be some things that I've kind of put together as special
mm,
for the listener. And there's some other areas, but if you go to dionwilson.graphy.com, you'll see those. You'll see more information about it. But you're paying for the experience, you're paying for the membership, the book comes along with it, and it is
mhm,
my goal to really pay for the publishing. So I'm looking to
mm,
really sell 250 memberships, and through that, afford the final cost of the publication itself. So
mhm.
yeah,
Well, I'm excited for you and I'm rooting for you.
thank
At
you.
this time, what I would like to do is do a quick segue to talk about Graphy and their Power BI Bootcamp. And then I want to come back to you, Dion, because I know that you have a lot of thoughts about Graphy and the creator economy. I think
Let's
that'd be a
do it.
great, let's do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, folks, I'm going to share my screen and I would love to talk to you about the Graphy Bootcamp. Graphy is the sponsor for this wonderful conversation that we're currently having with Dion today. And they have an opportunity for all of you. So, the Power 20 Bootcamp is something that Graphy created to help content creators to have an opportunity to really hone down and define what their niche is, what their audience person is, like who is the person that would buy this from you, and really help you build that foundation to be the best content creator possible and launch your next steps. So you're going to learn from industry experts. You're going to have access to some powerful tools. You'll get hands-on in-person experience, or at least virtually, real-time live experience of how to create this brand that you are trying to really nail down. You're going to set up a platform on Graphy, and then you're going to launch, and you're going to see where it takes you, right? Some of the famous Graphy Bootcamp alumni include Ash and Nick, Beyond School, and Ruth Landhorn. And like you, they were once just people playing with this idea in their head of what they would like to create, use their brand, use their innate talents as well as the talents that they have developed over time to start teaching people about various thoughts, subject matter expertise, and things for them to be greater. They started at Graphy. If you actually Google these names, you will see how far they've come. It's a pretty incredible story. Currently at Graphy, they've had a total of 240 total enrollments, 197 have graduated, and 148 webinars, courses, and memberships have been launched into the world, into the interwebs, and you could be one of those people. So this is how it works. It's a free 1 month access to tools, and those tools include a website and course builder, email marketing, that's important, and unlimited landing pages and Zoom classes. You get a 4-day workshop, learn to create, market, and sell your course. So, learning about how to build this course, how to market this course, and then how to sell the course to other people. So, you get paid. You're going to get exclusive promotion with Graphy. You're going to get a certificate that shows that you understand this. And then, of course, you will have Graphy experts holding your hand along the way, rooting for you, and making sure you succeed. So, what does that look like? Something like this usually costs about $500, but they are pricing it to $49 today for you. And if you reserve your spot now, it'll be $20 with a money back guarantee. I have my Graphy friends currently in the chat that are sending links for you to look that up. And if you decide to activate right now, as we have this conversation with Dion, it'll be $20.
That's good.
And that is the Graphy Bootcamp. And Dion, I did want to
Yeah.
talk to you about the
Yeah.
bootcamp. I know that you have so much just juicy experience with content creations and then also just the creator economy in general. What are your thoughts on the Graphy Bootcamp?
Well, first of all, I think it's great. My mind keeps going back to some of the gains that you went over, some of the things that benefits that
Mm-hmm.
creators will get. But one of the concepts that attracted me to Graphy was their ability to provide an application, so software
Mm-hmm.
application, as a creator of technology myself, that allows me to interact with my audience on my terms, and a lot of different features there, to utilize the Graphy interface. There's just so many things you can do to monetize your content, monetize your community, and not just monetize it for yourself, but monetize it for the community itself, which is really great, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's creating a pool or, rewards or anything along those lines. But although there are a lot of apps that handle video calls, and or I should say, have video calling in the feature, Graphy focuses on features that make it even more useful than others. So it's not just about, oh, I can see the person I'm speaking to. It's all the other features you have, the email, doing your email and marketing campaigns and being able, I'm very data centric. So the insights that you get on that. And so it's very important that visual narrative creators and entrepreneurs monetize their businesses. And there's some platforms which focus on monetization, but not to put down any apps. Their reputation may not be the best to have your business and products on compared to Graphy. So we know that in the space currently, there are a number of platforms which won't be named, but they're taking higher and higher cuts, and that's taking away from your ability to really deliver content. So I think that Graphy is the kind of platform that has the flexibility and the kind of tools that will, be very enjoyable and make it easy for you to engage your content and your creators. So
Mm, mm. I think that you have such a very unique voice in this space because of what you do, right? And so you coming on here and sharing, because I'm sure, Dion, you've seen a lot, okay, from a lot of people, has been very, very helpful. I wanted to, I have lots of questions, but before I go into that, we do have a question in the Q&A bot that I wanted to ask you, which
yeah,
is in your journey of networking, connecting with folks, what is the
okay.
common denominator between the risk takers, that you see? It's a great question.
The common denominators. Well, one very important one, and I'm sure the minute I mentioned, everybody will know it. It's the insistence, the determination to do it their way.
Mm,
Okay. Even when good advice, right, says go to the left, they say, nah, I'm going to stay straight, or they say, I'm going to go right.
mm,
And they make it work. They refuse to give in, they refuse to give up, they keep going. Um, another book, if you ever get a chance to buy it, Nassim Nicholas Taleb's Anti-Fragile, great book, difficult to read. He's a quant, not really an author, but it's a great book because it will show you the difference between fragile, anti-fragile, and robust. And many of my colleagues are anti-fragile for sure.
mm. Tell me
Yeah.
more about what anti-fragile means, because I am assuming things based on this term anti-fragile, and I don't want to assume. What does
Okay, sure.
anti-fragile mean in this context?
So
Yeah.
really quickly, something that's anti-fragile actually benefits from disruption. It benefits from problems,
Oh,
whereas
okay.
something that is fragile, it destroys them. There are plant types, animal types, as in human and lower animals, that actually benefit from problems.
Mm,
And we see this with a tremendous number of our creators. They do not come from say, the most healthiest and the best upbringings and the best situations. Um, that's what made Peter Parker as Spider-Man so popular was his trauma. People,
mm,
when you go deeper on it, you see it. The orphans, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, they're orphans. Dr. Banner, he was an abused child. So the Hulk is, an example of trying to contain that rage and anger that was put on him. So, you know, there you have it. You know.
it's an interesting concept because I was told a long time ago by a mentor. They told me, Lexi, the most successful people in
Mhm.
capitalism, because success is a spectrum, it can be defined differently. They said are
Sure.
the people that whether or not you know, they thrive on chaotic stability. Yeah.
Yes, if we're looking at it in terms of monetization,
Right. Right.
if we're talking about how they function in their networks with their top advisors, with their top network associates, when they're making exchanges, they do not. In fact,
Mm,
that's very disruptive to their process.
mm,
So, a lot of these things, we do say them as aphorisms, and they count at a point, but there are other areas to look at, and that's one of the things from my book when I talk about lateral thinking. Lateral
mhm.
thinking, when I grew up, it was always, you guys got to learn how to be critical thinkers. Critical thinking. They always talk about being a critical thinker. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't really know. I didn't know what it meant. I just, oh, okay, I got to think stuff out critically.
Yeah.
Whatever. But there are so many ways to think.
Mm,
And lateral thinking challenges us to look at something from another side. When we say there's more than one side to a coin, or to a situation,
mhm,
and so we have to look at things, from different perspectives, so that we don't gloss over the entire construct with one idea,
mm,
with one way of framing it. Sometimes for explanation, but we got to just dig a little bit deeper. And so,
right.
yes, I do believe that when it comes to how they're going to get money, how they're going to use strategy to disrupt someone else, but they don't want to be disrupted. Very much like, I was having a conversation with my mother, I think maybe about a week ago or so many days. We were talking about Prince, the musician, and how he was known to be a prankster. And one of the things, he would always disrupt other people from their work, but he refused to be disturbed. If he was doing something, you didn't bother him. And so, that same concept is applied to what you're saying. In certain areas that works very well, in other areas that can offset the very power dynamic and structure that person really is trying to maintain or further.
Mm. What is the biggest risk that you have taken?
Yeah. I don't, we don't have enough time for that.
I mean, Dion, we can make time. We can
Yeah,
make time.
well, I don't know. That might be classified. The biggest, um, yeah, I didn't you notice, guys. I didn't laugh too much. That might actually be classified. But the biggest risk, um, wow, I've taken a lot of risk, and they're all big in some kind
Mm.
of way. Um, I'll just say a big risk because I've
Okay.
taken a lot of risk.
Okay. I can deal with that.
Um, at an early age, I had I hadn't done as much traveling around the United States,
Hmm.
and where most people would typically, leave high school, go to college. They might go to college offshore. They might, just go to another state. My first time up and away was into, a fairly dangerous environment. Working with the military and working with, government personnel, and that was a real risk. Especially the second time around. When I first went to Iraq, I went there as a civilian contractor, um, and you you didn't. I wasn't in a draft. I wasn't
Hmm.
drafted. I didn't sign documents with Uncle Sam saying I have to go. Uh, I chose, and I went there in October of 2003. And if you know
Mm.
anything about the time frame of what was happening then,
Hmm.
it was very dangerous, very dangerous. I would say there wasn't a time I was there that it wasn't dangerous, but it was definitely differences. And when I got there, you pretty much slept on the ground or wherever you could. We had a hardened structure, but some people slept on the ground, and it was an experience, and it was very dangerous for me. It's a situation that most people would not choose, and I probably would not try to convince people to go into that, but I would always convince you because you're going to feel it. It's going to be visceral. You're going to be presented with choices, and you're going to feel it when there's something about that choice that's different. And your mind is going to, if you allow it, take time and actually go over what those differences are. And you're going to find that there are more advantages and disadvantages, but the disadvantages are going to be big if they hit you. And so
Hmm.
your job is to, how do you engage into that to get all those advantages and come out breathing,
Hmm.
whatever that means, whether it's your pocketbook or whether it's your actual life or what have you. Again, I don't advise anybody to risk their life, but you're risking a form of your livelihood.
Got
So,
it.
yeah.
Two questions in the chat bot. Will the book be a volume one? Is this an ongoing series? Dion, what are we doing? Book. What are we doing?
That's such a cool question. Thank you,
I
Lexi.
know. I love it.
Real quick, this is the last time I really want to talk about risk. No, I don't mean in this conversation.
Yeah.
I just mean book wise. I doubt that I'll do another one. I've already started on the second book. The second book is deep down about the creator economy. Deep down,
Mhm.
hands down, I'm going all in on this one. 22 chapters, end notes, beginning notes, the whole nine. And I've already started that book. I'm working with the publisher to, work on the one I already have completed. You would say the first draft anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's what's next. I want to write at least 5 books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they'll be on the same topic, but they'll be around, they'll all work as a compendium, I would say.
Mhm.
You would be able to read one, get some information. I want to do more how-tos. Another reason why I wrote this book, and I do got to add this in. One of the reasons why I wrote this book is I do a tremendous amount of reading, and I buy books that just people don't have the experience that they claim they're talking about. Now, how do you know this, Wilson? Because I'm just asking that question myself.
Mhm.
Because I've reached out to some of these authors,
Mm.
and I've actually done the research too on them. And God bless them, they're academics, but they haven't been in the areas that they're writing about.
So
And they're
theory
telling
versus
you,
practice. Theory versus
absolutely,
practice. Yeah.
absolutely. And they're telling you as though it's practice.
Mm.
And so and then you'll buy a book that's got a cliffhanger like a comic book where okay, we'll get down to how to in the next chapter, and you keep reading, you get to the end, you find out, well, they didn't tell me the how to. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted how to's. I want how to's. I want people to read my work and literally take models and run with them. Literally.
Mm, mm.
I
Love
know
it.
there's story and people love their story, but I want people to get down to how to. Bottom line.
Mm. Last question in the chat. But in your opinion, how important, percentage wise, this person wants a number, Dion, is risk taking as an entrepreneur?
It's an 11 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. Tell us more about that. Go deeper.
Well, you said one number. I gave you the number.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
You're 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 likely starting out. The majority of entrepreneurs are starting out at zero, at the
Mm-hmm.
base. That old saying, you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Okay, most of us weren't. But even if you were, there are a lot of wealthy parents that said, look, until this shows potential, I'm not giving you any money. Their
Mm-hmm.
trust funds are even marked that way. So you're starting at ground zero. And you've got to not only make it make sense to you, but it's got to make sense to some user out there that has the ability to multiply its effects, the utility as well as the financial capacity. The financial values are important. We have to derive financial values because that's a part of utility, because there are huge markets just dedicated to finance and to speculation and instruments around the values of things. So we need to make
Mm-hmm.
it make sense to them, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a process. It can be straightforward for some who have the mind to see in that straight line, and for others, they've got to kind of meander around and figure it out and get what they can. And to do that, you got to take great risks. You got to talk to people you wouldn't talk to. You got to portray an air that you wouldn't do. You've got to wear a different mask. You got to go to your version of Iraq and Afghanistan and Eastern Europe, and you've got to that's what you got to do.
I
So
love it. Well,
mhm.
we are basically at time.
Yeah, of
And
course,
so
talking
I
to
wanted
me.
I wanted to thank you so much for your candor and vulnerability
Sure,
in this space. I am so
absolutely.
excited for your book coming up. And I hope that people tune in and join your community so we can support this book and these efforts. But Dion, from me to you, what you're doing is fantastic, and I want you to
Thank
keep
you, Lexi.
doing it. And
Appreciate
I'm
you. I
aware
appreciate you.
that when people take risks, as you said, there's a short term sacrifice for a long term gain, but
Yep.
emotionally, it can be very lonely. And so I want to let you know
Yes.
from me that I see you and I support you, and just keep going, sir.
Thank
Keep
you. I
going.
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. The websites will be up.
Yep.
Well, it is up. It'll get fixed. So I've got more stuff to add to it. Thank you, Melissa. There's redefine winning dot online, not dot com, but dot
Mhm.
online. And there's also dionwilson.graphic.com. I want to really thank you, Lexi, for such an energetic host, to be such an energetic host. And I want to thank Graphy also for sponsoring this and being just a great, great collaborator. And I look forward to my influences out there, my entrepreneurs who are in the chat and just around. Learn more about Graphy. Um, Buy these memberships so that you can become a part of a community of people like us, and you get your copy of the book with that. We're going to do a lot of great things together. We're going to build the indie community the way we should, digitally and
Mm.
with the right type of network. So thanks a lot. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here too.
For folks who joined, thank you so much for coming. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful day. Stay moisturized and drink some water. And we will talk to you very, very soon. Dion, have a wonderful day. Do great
Thank
things.
you. All right,
Okay.
Lexi.
Bye,
Bye bye.
everyone.